jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show.
Join us as we cover many an insane movie and numerous cult TV phenomenons. Are you ready to get jacked up? Are you with us? Then listen on.
Listener discretion is advised. It's a jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show.
Every murder is the tale of a city. I don't believe there's a better world than this one.
This is the police.
And if this is the only one we got, how about I buy you a drink?
Call me.
I know that look. Yeah, if anyone would.
Feels like we're putting band-aids on bullet holes.
Hands up!
There's another body. If I don't take you, you'll never know.
I want you in charge of this field trip.
What went wrong out there?
Everything.
Hey, go! We need an airship now!
You break the rules, disobey orders.
Think I'm coming apart?
Focus, detective. Your future is on the line.
Is it true your mom was a prostitute and somebody killed her?
Detective, weren't you avenging your mother's death?
You got a lot of nerve.
Do you know about the thin line of madness? Do you have any idea what kind of position you put this department in?
We'll never know how many others he's done.
This is a child's bone, detective. No doubt about it.
I believe you find the justice you can in this life, not the next one. I'm Detective Bosch, LAPD Hollywood Division. This is the work I do.
And we're back, ladies and gents. Special guests. We got Tracey Phillipps of the Everybody Counts podcast.
Hi there.
Lovely to have you here on the show.
Thank you. Thanks
Mike,
for having me.
anytime. Mike Martini, shaken and always stirred.
Oh.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. And we are here to talk about Michael Connelly's Bosch franchise. Long time coming. So,
Yeah.
we will be covering the 7 seasons, discuss the upcoming spinoff, Connelly's work in general. And so, Tracey, what was your intro to reading Michael Connelly?
I actually started with the Lincoln Lawyer movie. So
Oh, nice. Okay.
I'm a McConaughey fan. And so I had to check out the movie. Then I learned there were books. And so I actually started out seeking out the specifically Lincoln Lawyer themed ones. And of course, you know, Bosch comes into his books as well. So I learned a little bit about him and I'm like, these are all great stories. I might as well read these ones about Bosch too, you know, that are more Bosch centric. And so then I just, you know, then Jack McAvoy, the whole range of characters. So yeah, but it actually started with the Lincoln Lawyer movie.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Connelly was kind of interesting. It's like, I don't know why. This is a lame reason. I got to mix it with Michael Baldacci just because they were both named Michael on the bestseller list. I'm like, well, here's the whole different thing. Baldacci is more of a over-the-top Tom Clancy kind of guy, you know?
Yeah.
And it was just so wild how is like he was kind of Connelly is kind of more of a John Grisham kind of guy, but he also kind of does he kind of remind you of James Ellroy kind of?
You know, I'm not familiar with him. I'm not a huge reader, actually, so I'll take your word for that.
No, it's all good. So, I mean, have you seen the movie LA Confidential?
Oh, yes.
So, yeah, that's kind of what Ellroy does. He goes into he's a radical guy in real life, too, but he is one of those, he goes into all the gritty, very just
Yeah, that whole
peculiar,
the noir
very
effect.
neo-noir,
Yeah.
And Mike, what was your introduction to reading any of Connelly's works?
I went into a Barnes & Noble or a bookstore 21 years ago, and I was reading a local author, David House, right at the time. He writes in the Twin Cities.
Oh, nice.
And I was looking for something similar, and I don't know if I asked somebody, or something, but somebody directed me to the, Connelly books. And so I bought like the first 2 or 3 paperbacks and started reading those, and I couldn't put them down. I mean, the writing was just so, you feel like you're right there with the characters, with how Connelly describes the scenery and the buildings and the city itself, And
totally concur. Yeah.
Reading the books go ahead.
I had read some of his work. I was already reading some of James Patterson and a bunch of those other over-the-top authors. And Connelly, I started with City of Bones, which I think is like the 8th book, and I didn't know those were all connected. I learned later on, but I'm totally with you. He did have kind of an unusual way of describing all the sceneries. Like you could just kind of hear the camera flashes of the paparazzi outside, and just the noises of cells, being opened up by parole officers, and just
very immersive for sure.
Detectives looking at the clocks endlessly, wondering how they're going to get home, feed themselves or their families, and the office politics, and not wanting to be involved with it, and then getting involved with it and toxic results. Now, what kind of shows did you guys kind of watch prior to this, to lead into this?
Prior to this,
mystery shows.
Well, I'm trying to think timeline wise, but I love Lost. I love things that go deeper and you have to dig a little bit and kind of uncover a mystery. There wasn't as much like gritty type stuff on television the way it is now, because it was mostly network, back then. But I was just starting to
only after 10 o'clock and everything.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly.
It's been on the air for years, and it's going to stay that way.
Yeah. But then when I actually had Amazon Prime, for some time now, and I got the notice when they were promoting different original pilots for Amazon, and you got to vote. So I got to watch
such a cool deal. Yeah.
The original Bosch pilot, which is not out there anymore. There were some changes, and I felt that sort of that realism, that grittiness right away that captured in the books. I thought it was a great adaptation from the beginning. So I think actually the show Bosch kind of kicked off that love of mine for really, immersive storytelling, getting in the minds of the readers, seeing Los Angeles for the kind of the first time for what it really is versus the little smoke and mirrors Hollywood that you usually see in shows.
Right. There's lethal weapon cops around every corner saying,
I
need help.
So I really appreciated that. And like I said, I thought it was such a great adaptation. So that was fun, seeing it from the beginning and voting for it, and then seeing that it did get made. And like I said, along those same lines, that was probably one of the first shows of that kind of genre that I really got into, and now I'm just open to so many more. So
totally. So yeah, I needed just another show to binge. I was binging before it was even a Netflix thing. I would always just try and tape something, whether it was something funny like Who's Line or something suspenseful like The X-Files, and then I just saw just all these talents that were involved with this, so there was just no way to avoid this. It's like Amazon. Right. Now we got to be a big giant TV icon. I saw the show would even come up in like Reddit chats or just civilized chats. Need a show or a movie that's similar to something like The Closer or The Shield. It's like that's not a very ho hum lesser CSI knockoff. Is like okay, so this is a big squadrons assemble strategic kind of thinking man's portrait with some, like you say, an underbelly of smut and filth that they have to just really submerge themselves in. I saw that there were a lot of actors from The Wire. I saw Eric Overmeyer, who was one of the head writers on Homicide: Life on the Street for the longest time, was the showrunner, working directly with Connelly. I was like, okay, well, so, and then there's a huge ton of actors from 24 on this, so I'm like, okay,
yeah,
there is no avoiding this. There's even some Star Trek actors here. I was like, so it was like everybody is definitely at the second or third stage of their career in this, and yeah, I better check this out. Were you guys already familiar with Titus Weliver, who plays the title character, Harry Bosch?
I wasn't before the show started, but definitely started looking into him after that, and saw that
he has been in so much.
And
Man on the Ledge, the Soul on Precinct 13 remake, Argo, and I would even see him pop up in other as recurring roles in shows. He was Sipowitz's doctor on NYPD Blue back in the day, and Tracey brought up, he's the one of the many suspicious villains on Lost, and he just would always just pop up just in the most uncommon movie or show. He plays a firefighter who knew the main character's deceased wife during 9/11 on the supernatural show Touch.
Oh yes. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I guess you could say he appeals just because you never know what to expect from him. Is he going to be a harsh guy who's nice? Yeah.
He has such great range. He can play the nice guy. He can play the evil guy. I know it's fun for a lot of people when they've watched Bosch, and he's can be a bit of a sour character sometimes, but when they really see him as a villain, when they really see him as a villain on another show, they're like, oh, he was the bad guy. But the first time I really took notice of him, and I probably had seen him in things and not really taken notice, but Gone Baby Gone, the movie.
That's a good parallel. Yeah, to that one.
Yeah, and I love, and I was reading all the Dennis Lehane books after that. So I liked his storytelling as well. But I was impressed with how Titus in his character made such an impression with not a huge role. I mean, he had a pivotal role in the story, no spoilers, even though it's been years and years gone, but he did a lot with not a lot of screen time. And I think I think he's so capable of that. He can just do so much. He doesn't need a lot of necessarily dialogue, or he can really get the point across as that character. So.
He's even unrecognizable as one of the many brutes on Deadwood. He's just always been just kind of just going here and there, and like you say, is like sometimes his voice is very deadly, sometimes his eyes are very playful to the camera. So you definitely, and I can say this about many of the other actors. So just to introduce our row of characters, we got Detective J. Edgar, played by Jamie Hector of The Wire. We got Lieutenant Billets, played by Amy Aquino, who's been on many other shows like Everyone Loves Raymond and Picket Fences. And then we got Chief Irving, played by Lance Reddick from movies like Angel Has Fallen and The Wire and the John Wick franchise. Were you familiar with any of these guys?
I remember Lance from Lost. He also appeared in Lost.
That's right. Shit.
Briefly, yeah. So really, he has such a striking appearance, and the voice and the appearance and the way he carries himself is very striking. So I clearly remembered that, that actor. I hadn't seen him in a lot of other things, but I was like, oh, that's that guy from Lost.
There you go.
I remember watching Lance Reddick when he was in Fringe. That was one of my I like to watch back in the 2000s there. And so I heard that Lance Reddick was attached as Chief Irving. I'm like, ooh, good. Nice casting.
There you go. Yeah, no. Yeah, you see him anywhere is like, oh, I've seen his face. It's like he is another one kind of very much like Titus, where he is like, you really never know his surroundings or what kind of a character he's going to portray until he opens his lips. And
yeah.
See, that's just it too. He has like a 10-second clip in Godzilla vs. Kong. He's only in it for like 10 seconds, one line, but it's like just that one line you want to know. It's like, where did this guy pop up? He has one line, that's it. It's like, come on.
Yeah. And he has a very comedic side as well. He's talk about range. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen him be very sneaky and very amusing with his one-liners in various other movies, and there's even movies that you forget he's in. You're like, oh, that's right, he was in that. It's like I should just watch it again. He was even in the '98 Godzilla. I swear I saw him on one airing, but I can never find him now. Anytime I've re-seen that silly movie. Yeah, so season 1 concerns itself, just as a brief summary of the seasons, with city politics being threatened by the district attorney's agenda, and it includes civil lawyer Honey Chandler, played by Mimi Rogers in a comeback role. Season 1 later incorporates whether or not spree serial killer has any legit claim to a unsolved cold case. Season 2 details a Mulholland Drive murder that might have ties to the Albanian mob, some crooked cops, and the porn film industry. Season 3 dives into Bosch's hunch that he might have actually found the murder of an earlier case he tried to solve. Season 4 covers the quest to find out a suspicious murder of a civil rights attorney who was repping of the LAPD. Season 5 notes an unlikely alliance between Bosch and Chandler when another murder conviction calls into question his cases. Season 6 has a medical physician killed, and LA is threatened by radioactive material. And season 7 wraps up Bosch's saga while he pursues an arson murderer. So, when the whole thing came out, so you guys were watching it just nonstop, just bit by bit, or did you binge it all together, like a year after it was on?
Oh, I watched from the beginning. But I went through the episodes pretty quickly, but then I'd go back and rewatch. I've rewatched it,
Oh, okay, so you would rewatch times
while
waiting for the next one.
For the next season, yeah, for sure.
Very cool.
Yeah, same here. I was like Tracey. I watched it when it was first filmed and put on Amazon for voting, and they want to wait to hear on feedback and stuff. So I was promoting the show on Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that back then. And then, every time the season comes out, I binge through it, all 10 episodes, but then I'll watch it 2 or 3 times the following couple days to weeks afterwards. So I've watched every season countless times. And it's fun because you always pick up something you've forgotten, or
absolutely
some minor scene that happened earlier on, or even later on in the episodes as well. So
you almost have to watch it again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, totally.
To get everything, yeah.
I'm even surprised it's been released in DVD in Australia. It's won a bunch of nominations at the Saturn Awards, so I thought that was interesting because they're always, applauding various other just film and TV genres, mainly sci-fi and horror, but they decided to cover all other genres as well. I mean, like you say, it's very briskly paced. It is kind of wild how, there's just so many other characters, but it's like, there's the LAPD, there's the unusual series of villains, and then there's the FBI, and then then there's
the politics.
The politics, and the attorney's office. And it really is interesting how they will just give you so many things to just think about and just gauge it on in terms of who's going to probably cause an incident that divides everyone in the office, who's going to find something amiss and they just can't dedicate enough sources to it, who's going to be endangered the other season. And like you mentioned earlier, there's this really does embrace the noir kind of side of things, where there's just a lot of silent narrations, and the main character is very obsessed with jazz. So you definitely get to see low rent areas, some ghetto areas, and even some club areas. It's but this is filmed in actual Los Angeles.
These are real places. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Definitely feels legit, and a good use of using a city to its advantage to just show various elements of crime.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the city is a character in and of itself on the show.
Oh, totally.
Exactly. And the fact that they film in LA, it was non-negotiable with Michael Connelly. It was that would have been a deal breaker. He's
Amazon's got money.
Yeah, well, he's made that clear in interviews. It has to be LA. It has to be the city that's part of, like Mike just said. LA is a character, and you can't fake that. So,
no, not even remotely.
See, that's, and I'm not going to get off on a tangent on any other shows, but anything like, or I'm not trying to talk too much about any other show, but I've seen that a lot with like shows that are supposed to take place in Minneapolis, like the Disney Plus movie. What is it? The Zach Zobiak story that's on Disney Plus. It's supposed to take place in the cities, yet most of it was filmed in Canada. So,
oh boy.
So it's like, and then the Mighty Ducks comebacks show is supposed to take place in the Twin Cities, filmed in Canada. It's like, oh great, I know it's cheaper to film there, but it can't be that much cheaper than Minnesota.
Yeah.
So you kind of look forward to seeing Minnesota landmarks, but then you look it up and it's like, oh, it's filmed in this place. And
are you kidding?
Great. Yeah. See, that's why I like IMDb looking up Bosch locations, because it's like, you'll see on there, they'll have the locations listed. So I'm like, okay, I'll Google it on Google Maps. And so it came in handy when I was able to go see those sites and scenes from the show itself when I was in LA a few months ago.
Oh, totally. And I think they really do owe it to, it's just so organized. You can tell that they planned out all these shots, all these locations, and it's like, it was just so ideal. And through the narrative and everything, everyone was just I haven't heard any behind the scenes issues or anything. I've done extra work before, and it is very interesting just I've seen people kind of often go back and forth between a lot of Oklahoma, Georgia, and Dallas film sets, and it seems like those can be ranged between SAG unions or non-unions. So but yeah, this was a very tight, huge union LA production, and you really do kind of even get a sense in your head where everything's located in your head, where all the houses and mansions and stations are.
It becomes familiar. Yeah.
I did work on a show that did have Yancey Arias, who played one of the former mayor's candidates on this. So it was very interesting seeing him in this role. And even just kind of getting a sense of how, everyone's got a secret in their closet that, is just about to it'll either get exploited or it'll be just revealed at an awkward time.
Yeah.
And saying I'm sorry isn't going to cut it. Let's talk a little bit about the supporting characters. Crate and Barrel, Detectives Moore and Johnson, played by Gregory Scott Cummins and Troy Evans.
Yeah.
I kind of got a sense that they were kind of Provenza and Finn on the closer, or even, Laurel and Hardy, Finn and Munch on Law and Order. And it's like they had that back and forth report, and they really, you kind of end up following their small scale crimes that are either connected to stuff from a few seasons ago or eventually lead them to the main crime eventually. How do you guys feel about that supporting storyline and how it works?
I know fans would love to see more Crate and Barrel. Even their own little spin-off would be nice, I know for sure.
Yeah.
So other than that, but I mean, yeah, it's like you wish you kind of knew the backstory a little bit more when they first came together at Hollywood Station.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
When they first partnered up there, but I mean, especially in season 5 and 6, Barrel had more of a story arc, helping out Bosch with going undercover with the meeting.
Pretty unexpected, yeah.
Yeah, going out to the park to kind of infiltrate the sovereigns, get more information on them. And you got that from Beryl in season 5 and 6, but it's like I've made comments to about Crate, we don't get to see his home life. What's his home life like?
Yeah.
Beryl and his dog watching movies and stuff like that, old westerns, and what's Crate's life like at home?
Yeah,
So.
more.
Totally.
I think one of my favorite things about them is the dichotomy of seeing them with the humor and the rapport, like you're talking about, and those just fabulous, lines that they have, but then seeing them really pull off serious detective work, and not just the detective work itself, but for instance, was it season 6 with is it 308s? Is that what the Sovereigns were?
308 Sovereigns.
Wait, hold up.
What's the number?
308.
308 is the number?
308. Is that the right number, Mike?
Yep.
So
Okay.
season 3, episode 8.
Oh no, just the Sovereigns. They were the 308s. That's what they.
Oh,
they
okay.
to
That's
some
right.
type of law part. But anyways, in that season, in that storyline, when after they find out that the sheriff's deputy was responsible and everything with Heather Strout and all that, and they capture him, because I would say Troy, Beryl goes to the restroom and he sees him and he puts it together that he talked to that guy, before, and he puts it all together. So they capture him in time, and Bosch goes in and, throws the bomb down the hall. But in that scene where they capture him and, they're talking.
Oh, yeah, with the white supremacist guys. Yeah.
Yeah. And
okay.
Crate with that big, broad stance, and I think he gives an expletive or something, to the guy, but he really, it's not funny Crate. It's not calm Crate. It's just like serious business. Like he's a very imposing figure at that point. And I think
you don't feel like they're heroes or anything. I mean, they're getting, again, beat up by suspects, and they don't get up for like the rest of the season or something. I mean, they are constantly teased after that predicament where they were in a, car crash, and they are almost forced to consider retirement before just, we'll just silently just do a different division.
I just love enjoying them and their humor and adding that little bit of lightheartedness, but then seeing them really being serious and really good at their jobs. Even when they arrested Roger Dillon, I love that picture, that still of Titus. He's in between, I think, Crate and Beryl, and they're ready to arrest him. It's just, it's really neat seeing those both sides. It was so very different sides, Harry
Absolutely.
can be funny sometimes, he's got some lines and things, but not like them. They're the variation between, the different sides of their characters is pretty wide.
Oh, totally.
Cool
As
to
a
watch.
security guard and even someone who knows a few different gamblers, it was very interesting just seeing how dry everyone can be and want to call each other on their bullshit. And it's even more interesting just seeing how Bosch decides is like, okay, I guess I'll make unlikely alliances. Is like me and Chandler, the civil rights lawyer, we're going to work together.
And he turns to them for help in his cases, like Mike was talking about, doing that undercover. He knows they do good work, so
he's just very annoyed having, the law work against him a few different times at putting away just some real bad apples,
yeah.
Other heavily lethal lawyers, other crooked cops, other people who have just been disrupting his sector. His wife is addicted to gambling, and his other friends are just the most unlikeliest of friends. It's even funny what grief they give each other. Were you already familiar with the actor Paul Calderon, who plays Jimmy Robertson?
No, I wasn't either.
The only thing I knew him from was Fear the Walking Dead, and played just drastically different character. I mean, that's what these guys do. They act.
Oh yeah, they're chameleons.
Yeah. But I remembered him from that. And then not long after I saw him in Bosch.
Okay, so you hadn't seen Pulp Fiction where he plays
No, I hadn't.
Club patrons, my man from Amsterdam. Okay, so he's been in a bunch of Michael Mann and Abel Ferrara kind of movies. But yeah, he's just another one. He's just popped up in just even individual other movies like Clockers and The Last Castle, Sentinel, and even Copland. So
He's definitely a fan favorite.
Oh yeah, and I don't know why. I had some friends who thought he was Asian. I'm like, no, he's clearly Puerto Rican. So it is kind of wild how you never know what to expect from his kind of style of how he determines various clues and problem solves. Were you guys thinking he was going to have some other kind of predicaments? Like, it's kind of interesting how he wants to go to robbery homicide division, but not right away because he knows he's trying to get rid of some bad apples there.
Yeah.
Other guys who kind of made that environment toxic. So it's very interesting how what a working office kind of scenario this is half the time. It's like everyone's had a job where it's like, ooh, I got a good deal or I don't got a good deal.
Right. Well, I certainly enjoyed watching him mentor Pierce. That was
totally.
It was very effective, but it was unique, young blood, and he calls him Yoda, and you have to sit, on the crate and just take things at very kind of meta or whatever.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, his approach. Patience like grasshopper.
Right. Being wise asses with their pop culture references.
Yes.
Protege versus mentor. But yeah, it is like, and much like Bosch tries to convince his daughter Maddie to consider a career in law enforcement or legal side of things. It's very interesting seeing Pierce, how he went from being a patrol cop to becoming a first beginner detective level 1.
Yeah, they seem like such, an odd pairing, but it was so effective that, he really did help make Pierce a great detective. And another thing I really liked was when we finally saw that, I'm just having a brain fart.
Good.
Robertson, I wasn't sure we're talking about.
Yes, Jimmy.
That he deeply cared about the safety of Bosch there in season 5.
Yeah,
when he helps rescue him, they're like, "Let's get in the car, let's go." And they
say it so loosely, but it's never done in the. I need to save you is like, and their level of thank you with all the testosterone in their blood is just pat on the back saying, "Don't mention it. You don't owe me anything."
right, yeah. Brush it off. That was such an interesting arc, seeing them kind of as butting heads, and then that partnership, or not partnership, they weren't partners, but working together, the relationship growing and earning respect, between each other. That was very rewarding, I think, as a viewer to see that.
And they use it to their advantage. Like Pierce and Robertson will both mention is like, "Hey, I know this neck of the woods. I've been here. Here's how we go in with our lights blazing, or we don't, and we walk around and because the idiots who we're chasing are always going to go and hide out at this sector." And it's even interesting how what kind of criminal informants they use and witnesses, and it's like, this is not a priority. Oh, this is where traffickers are suspected to be. Oh, this is where there's a bunch of immigrants and potheads hanging out. But even Bosch, like when it gets to even Edgar's, going after the Haitian criminals, is like he's having to literally kind of confront people from his past, his upbringing, and how he got to be where he was. Bosch is basically always at war because he left the Gulf War, but he's still basically being very tactical whenever someone is trying to ambush him at his house. And
sure, exactly.
What did you guys also think about some of the other supporting detectives? Like there was Detective Vega, who's played by Jacqueline Abradars, who you might know from some of George Lopez's sitcoms and movies like Tortilla Soup and A Man Apart. I definitely knew her as Detective Ortiz on NYPD Blue, so this was just kind of, I was like, okay, so she's one of the unusual New York detectives. Now she's an unusual LA detective, so I'm seeing a trend here. Especially in a post-Me Too environment, how was it interesting kind of seeing how she kind of she nearly unintentionally like sets up a whole sexual harassment workplace incident.
Yeah, I mean that.
Yeah, she said she loves to just kind of talk smack about everything and vent with Pierce, and Pierce takes everything too seriously. And then that captain, who's already kind of a dick, he has a grudge against the lieutenant because
sure
he just keeps pinpointing that he's not doing his job, and
exactly.
and she's already had to, try and, even though we like this is where it's really interesting. It's like, because we like to think about California as a pretty progressive state, and yet, with the police unions and everything, it's like there's still a lot of people who it's like they can't admit that, they're a closeted detective or superior, no matter their rank. So, and here she is, she's just already about to be outed again, and the lieutenant is like, can we just get through this?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, here's what you're going to tell internal affairs so that they'll piss off and that they'll realize this is not a crisis. This is not,
this is not an issue. Yeah.
Cops, being jerks to each other. There was a supporting character. I don't know if you guys recognized him. Let's see if he's here on the list. He's later on. God, he's such a good actor, but once again, I never know if he's going to play a jerk or a hardened superior. In this case, he's playing a superior, but he's also a jerk. He's played by Mark Ralston, who you might know from movies like Aliens and Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, Captain Pounds.
Yeah, he's like so I couldn't figure out. He was like part of the robbery homicide division, or was he another division?
He was captain at Hollywood division.
That's what it was, Hollywood
Yeah,
division,
and
yes.
then after the window throwing incident, he got moved elsewhere to art.
Oh no, not Pounds, not Pounds. I know Pounds. He's played by Mark Derwin. Yes. Most
yeah.
awesome
I'm sorry.
revenge on a
my bad. I'm getting
superior ever.
Lieutenant Thorne, Don
Thorne. Yes, that's
there
the one.
You go.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I messed that up.
And he is that is such an appropriate name. Oh my god.
Yeah, I used to call on the podcast. I call him, Lieutenant Thorne in my side. He's the worst.
Yeah, it's just like he's really just playing into. He's using a few other just old school names, and he's like, "Hey, you can't get rid of all of us boomers or something." He said something like that. I'm like, "Oh my goodness, he just wants to fight."
Yeah, and just in this last season when he's like, "And now Lieutenant Phillipps will grace us with her presence." It's like, just shut up. It's like everything you do is just annoying.
I love how she just responds to him. He's like, you know what? You guys get to clean up shop while we carefully handle all this, because I'm not going to deal with this anymore. I have tried to reason with you. I have put up with already 5 insults that anyone else would have instantly suspended you for, and now I'm just like, okay, so it's your problem now, and now I'm, if that makes me a bitch, so be it.
I like the way Phillipps interacts with Thorne. She doesn't take any grief from him. I mean, it was really awkward, was it season 4 when she was the interim captain, but when they're really just peer to peer, she just says it like it is. Whereas with Captain, she tries to, even though it's I'm sure it's painful, she tries to respect the chain of command or whatever, when she's talking to him, and not let, say certain things, but she'll just have it out with Thorne. I like watching that difference.
Oh, totally. And it kind of just plays into, again, just the underbelly of everything. Season 2 and 3, they both have suspects who are disgruntled ex-cops who, quit in a not so shiny way. It was you got, because season 2, without giving away, you have one of the guys, you have both dirty cops and an ex-cop who's now a security guard. And then season 3, you had the mummy himself, Arnold Vosloo, playing a investigator working for the defense, who may or may not have done some shady stuff. So it's just so interesting seeing how a lot of these guys end up getting in with different crowds. And then it's just so funny when Bosch goes to Chandler's office for the first time when he's working with her in season 4 and 5. It's just so funny how she's got her own private eye. Played by Ryan Hurst, who you guys might know from movies like We Were Soldiers and Sons of Anarchy. It's just like he perfectly has the intimidating side, and he can blend in because you don't know if it's just a random guy at the Wi-Fi cafeteria or a gang leader. You know, he uses that beard in disguise to his advantage.
Yeah.
Really frightening to me was the smuggler guy, played by Chris Vance from Prison Break, and you might also know him from the Transporter TV show and Burn Notice.
Yeah.
Or Rosalie Niles. Did you ever see that similar show?
I did not.
No, I haven't seen a lot of those shows, unfortunately. I've seen like episodes here and there, but I haven't seen.
Okay, all good. Okay, so Dalton, the main smuggler, who plays a game of Russian roulette with Bosch.
Oh, yeah.
That guy was frightening.
Oh,
yeah.
Because that's just in the pilot episode, or not the pilot episode, but in the first episode of season 5, you know, they go like 2 or 3, 4 weeks into the future and show like that part of it, and then go back. I thought it was going to be like a season where they're going to be doing a whole bunch of flashbacks and stuff.
Yeah, like he'll be imprisoned and then be sending someone, you know, on his payroll to go kill Bosch while he's serving time. I thought that's what was going to happen, but no, it goes a totally different direction.
Yeah, so they kind of like started it at point F and then went back to point A and led it back right up to point F. So that's what I liked how they did that season 5.
I did too. That was interesting how they finally got the timelines, you know, together. But
it's like, you know how it's going to end, but you don't know how it's going to lead up to that and if it's going to explode. Also, like some of these actors have really just constantly like worked with one another or done similar stuff. Like the FBI agent gal Reese, played by Julia Ann Emery. She's an interesting, unusual ally for Bosch. You don't know where her stance and agenda is, but I just thought it was interesting because I had seen her as a crooked detective on the Closer's major crime spinoff, and she was one of the clients on Better Call Saul. So
I remember in Better Call Saul, and she was also in the pilot episode of The Rookie with
Nathan Fillion.
Because I've chatted with her through like Twitter and Facebook or whatever, and I know that people have, and me included, I thought there was still something there in season 6 with her character, Agent Reese, because it seemed like she wanted to tell Bosch something when he was giving her the prints to run.
Oh yeah.
And she said, like, you know, she said Bosch, like, trying to get his attention, and we look back and goes, yeah. She's like, never mind, you know.
Yeah.
You wonder if there was something else there that she was trying to tell him but couldn't or wouldn't or what.
Right.
Yeah. I'm glad you bring that up because there's definitely some stuff in season 6 like, I'm guarantee you. So, I mean, for the upcoming IMDb TV, don't worry, guys, you can still access that through Amazon Prime. I have no doubt that that's going to play in a bit. Like the FBI is still going to play some big part, even though Bosch is going to become part of Chandler's law firm. But yeah, no, I mean, it's very interesting because, I mean, before that, Bosch, you know, has all these other intimidating guys who hate his guts. He hates them just by their affiliation alone and just being so territorial. I thought it was very interesting too how what's his name, played by Matthew Lillard from Scream, and playing
Luke
Lucky. Yeah, when he first meets him, he's undercover as a strip club guy. That's his identity, and then it's just so funny how he just comes back and he's done some other assignments under different aliases, and he's all clean shaven now.
Yep.
And
well, that's why, like, the differences in the books to the show, a little bit of differences. Like, I know in the book, Harry Bosch cuts off the ponytail of the character of Luke Ocean, but it's a different name in the book. But
oh, really?
So they kind of start with this animosity in the books, but in later on in the books, Luke Ocean's character pops in to help out Bosch when he's working as a private investigator. So I wouldn't mind seeing like the Matthew Lillard character, or, you know, like like I said in the books, he's always seems to butt heads with the FBI, even when he's working as a private investigator.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that the FBI still plays parts in the spinoff as well.
Oh,
totally.
I hope so too. Yeah.
And I have no doubt that it's just going to keep just getting some bigger acclaim. Like even Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes scores have been just out the wazoo, just very favorable, and like both high critic score, high audience score, and it seems like just any critics who just did not like it are just very minuscule, like just don't like anything that's a mystery show. So it's just like it's been a pretty easy to just get into kind of show. I mean,
oh, speaking of Goshen, what do you guys think that he will like we would love to see him appear again, like Mike was saying. Do you think he would write Bosch off based on what he did in the season 7 finale?
Good question.
You know, or is that something he can not get over, but I mean, can he, you know, turn a blind eye to that and still, you know, I think they're
gonna meet up under another unusual circumstance, and that's just gonna pit them against each other to where he's like, hey, I know you want to do this, Bosch, but this is again not in the bureau or the state's attorney's agenda. It's like he's always gonna find himself on the other end, and they're always gonna have to answer to, again, just what looks good for everyone's appeal and get and credit. I really was also impressed with how many people are loosely connected to each other, like just behind the scenes. Like, again, Overmeyer brought in a few guys who had, again, worked on The Wire and Homicide and Law and Order, but then Titus Weliver had his real life son play his character in flashbacks, you know, growing up as a kid. I was like, so how cool. Did you guys know that he started a movie years ago that like was an HBO world premiere back in the day with C. Thomas Howell?
Did not.
So I
haven't seen that.
For me, I just was not surprised when I saw, you know, C. Thomas Howell as one of the
one of the drug people, the druggies, in
well,
season 5.
at the rehab clinic that turns out to be part of the whole criminal underbelly. And it did kind of just bring up, don't you like also how this shows just other areas where it's like minorities kind of have it bad, and you want to see their side of the story, especially like with season 6 where, you know, there's the arson burning, and you actually do get an idea of just some of these communities that do exist in some capacity. Especially in was it season 4? Yeah, season 4, where it's like total big parallel with today's, you know, topics on Black Lives Matter. You know, how many are in it just to, you know, for social media attention versus how many do, you know, are tired of this and do have to finally stomp down their foot and, you know, lead a peaceful parade, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And just how intense it is each time they go to the city council meetings. It's just like, and I thought it was going to get really, really morbid there when, you know, one of the killers was there.
Oh yeah,
taking photos. I was like, oh fuck, this is not good. But it fortunately did not escalate. But I loved how they just had us with that. They do use a lot of voyeuristic kind of camera work where we're just seeing something is like, oh, this is only for this person's eyes, especially when Chief Irving, you just know that, you know, at first Bosch kind of goes over his head and gets on his bad side because he finds out that someone, the LAPD, was responsible for his prostitute mother's death back in the 70s. And is like, and Irving is just like, no, and not without my approval. And by the way, I'm shedding documents. And he keeps shedding documents for other encounters, even harmless stuff that he just feels would in some way incriminate everyone or reopen a case. And he's just like, not going to deal with it. And then it's just so funny how he takes his bribery. He's like, you know what? I'm not the kind to bribe people. So you know what? Yeah, I got a wonderful fiance, so I'm just gonna kick back. I don't need this. I'm just gonna keep being the chief. we got to talk about the Koreatown Murderer.
Yeah.
That goes on for the first 3 seasons. And was it dissolved in season 3 or 4? I can never remember.
Season 4.
Okay, yeah. The beginning is like halfway through there. He shows up dead, and Crate and Barrel are like, "Who's this asshole?" He got ran over, and that pistol is clearly his.
Yeah.
Yep.
I thought it was really interesting when we finally saw inside his apartment and just all that junk he had, tons of all the phones and the phone cases and just all kinds of piles and like of stuff he'd collected, I guess, through his, you know.
Yeah,
okay, so was he the one who had the belongings of this is a very lowbrow movie. What was it? Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers. Was he the one with all those weird collectibles, or was that some other? I can't remember.
I don't know.
But I just thought it was so funny because I'm a film buff, so I know about that infamous filmmaker.
Yeah.
So I thought, of course, someone would take a stupid schlock fest and take it as an idea of here's how to become a murderer. I just they really do like you say the belongings really well. You can tell what's labeled what, and it's really hard to describe this to other people, but it's like it's just very visually well thought out.
Yeah, very.
It's like you know what's what, and if you miss a line of dialogue, they remind you here and there, and it sounds legit as opposed to doing what a lesser crime show would do is like, and here's how we get started doing this. You know, it's like, no, they don't play to the camera. You know?
Right. Yeah, everything I keep hearing about Eric Overmyer is, you know, less is more. You know, if he can portray it without lines, without dialogue, he'd rather do it that way.
They approach it like a documentary, yeah.
They've been very effective with that, yeah.
Oh, totally. So I guess before we almost wrap this up, who, I'll circle around with you too. Who is your favorite villain to just spite, to just say there's just no way they can catch him? He's just too good at manipulating the system and just, you know, avoiding crime or killing witnesses. For me, just Waits, played by Jason Jedrick, who played a similar despicable guy on Major Crimes. You guys might know him from movies like Backdraft and a few other independent films, Iron Eagle, all silly films. The killer in season 1, who was like, I'm not a rapist, but I will kill them and strip them naked.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought he was one of the most terrifying villains, but to be honest with you, one of the people that we just like were just irritated us and frustrated us and just loved to hate kind of thing.
Wanted to bash the screen of
Captain
your TV.
Cooper. Was Captain Cooper an actual officer? I mean, we had more angst, I think, against him, talking amongst friends and fans and the podcast and so forth. It was like we could not stand that guy. You know, whereas he wasn't terrifying because you knew he really, you know, you could, you know, knock him over.
So true. Because with Pounds, he was just a character, and everyone just said, "Hey, let's just have you transfer because we like Bosch and we kind of don't like you, so we're just gonna play a game of who gets to go where." But yeah, with that new captain, like you say, he's so systematic in everything he corrupts. Because it's like, it's not like he's killing anyone, but it's like, then he just, that revenge porn element against the lieutenant. It's just like, Jesus Christ.
It was frustrating, annoying, like, but not terrifying. I wasn't afraid of him. He just, you know, angered me so much.
Conniving and smug about everything.
But Waits terrified me, but
to answer the question though too is the one person that Bosch hasn't caught yet red-handed. Well, he caught her red-handed, literally. Veronica Allen. You know, she's still out and loose.
Good one.
Oh yeah, the porn star madam. Yes, because and then she said, like before when she was trying to get away, I'll just go to Vegas, you know, and take advantage of some other, you know, idiot who thinks with his, you know, junk and not his brain and wallet. So this is like, it's very interesting how, that was a cool role for that actress, Jerry Ryan. That's right, 7 to 9 from Star Trek. And just seeing, again, you know, it's like the show is not terribly graphic. It could still easily be like in between PG. It's a pretty light R compared to most shows, which like to overdo it and be near X-rated. It's like, and it just showed how it's like she, for her, she just found the whole system kind of hypocritical and, her off-color career. And she just figured, I'm going to just take advantage of this. And if I have to murder to get what I want, then, baby, I've earned it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just it though too. There was like a plot point that wasn't fully closed from season 2, and that was the Layla character.
Right.
And when I brought it up after like a Bosch stakeout, if I'm not mistaken, at Michael Connelly, I tweeted at him saying, it's not showing what happens to her here, but hey, what happens to her in the show? Because in the book, they see her in the Bosch and Eleanor on a beach somewhere and see her walk by. So obviously she's gotten away. But at the end of season 2, they had tracked her down to wherever she was at. So I was kind of curious about, does she live? Does she get killed or what?
Right after that, seeing her at that, like in what is it, Italy or something like that?
Yeah, it looked like Italy. Yeah.
I could predict something probably like that. I'm sure she will pop up eventually. And it's just so funny how Chandler got her dismissed and it's like, but do you really believe her? And she's like, doesn't matter. She was my client.
Well, that's Veronica Allen. I'm talking about Layla, who was Tony Allen's girlfriend.
Yeah.
Not the wife.
Yeah.
So you see Layla at the end of season 2 at a fancy Italian-looking restaurant, and the lawyer, what's the last name?
Weiss.
Veronica Allen. Is
it Weiss?
Yeah, Weiss, I think.
That's right.
Tracked her down for their Armenian mob. So you kind of wonder, is she going to get killed or does she give the money back to save her life? I mean, there's no kind of conclusion to that.
Is there any chance that she was like in it also? Like
oh, what if she teams up with all those other despicable guys, shady people in season 3?
Like, was Weiss there to track her down, or were they somehow plotting something all along with the money together? I mean, I had a hard time understanding that for sure.
I recall Veronica just wanted to extort her, basically. She was kind of using her from what I kind of gathered.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Maybe even kill her and take her identity, for all we know. I don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
I mean, Layla's just her stage name, so I mean.
That's the thing. Veronica's not afraid to. Her is that she doesn't, show any fear.
No, not even remotely. It'd be even funny if they even turn up at one of the AA meetings or those other places.
Yeah.
I definitely did have to just kind of, other people who were watching it, I did have to kind of recap them on that. I had to also tell them, it's like, no, Bosch deliberately, messed with his, ankle and just leg in season 5 also. It's like there's always those little moments where it's like, okay, no, this is why they're doing this, to get that, to get to there. And it really is interesting how it all plays together. But
well, and that's what's so compelling about it too, I think, is that you have to work a little bit, or maybe more than a little. You have to really get invested in work and pay attention and put things together. They don't just roll out the story for you.
Right. And if you explain it all away in the opening credits, then there's no point to watch the rest if you know how it ends. So yeah, it's like they did some pretty good storytelling. Also, I found it interesting how I was seeing a trend with like some of the background Vice Squad kind of guys. It's like some of them were either voice actors, like for video games and cartoons, or people who had been on shows like The Shield or Major Crimes. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, that was like a copy and paste, but they were playing totally different kind of characters.
Okay.
They're both still playing cops, and especially
and actual police officers there too. Which
is like, I think you guys even posted a few things. Is like some of the supervisors and technical guys were showing up like once an episode.
And they use
Mitzi Roberts and Mitzi Roberts and Tim Marsha are the technical advisors behind the scenes.
Great
In
gig.
fact, Tim Marcia is actually retired now from RHD, but working as a technical advisor on the spinoff. So I got to meet him when I was out there on
Sweet.
set.
Yeah,
Are
when they're in uniform, they have actual officers there.
Are they also
for
getting
safety
paid as?
reasons.
Are they also getting paid as extras, or is it more like stuntmen where they're just happen to be making it on camera briefly?
Oh, the real officers that are
Yeah.
on. I would think they have to be paid.
Yeah, definitely by SAG rules, but
Yeah.
okay. I'm just
I mean,
wondering.
I don't know for sure, but
I don't know if they're becoming actors. I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, what do you think about Julia Brasher?
Oh, don't get me started.
It looks like she. Why do I have a feeling she's going to show up and she's been killed in after like an argument with Bosch, and she'll be found dead, and then they'll have to figure out her death because
she just picked up a big role, Annie Wershing, so I don't know.
Yeah,
if she'll
she's
have
playing the
time.
Borg Queen now on Star Trek Picard, but yeah, I just mean in general. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
for me, it's just interesting for her because that actress has just always had to play just trouble-bound characters. Just like she's on the video game The Last of Us. She was ex-FBI agent Renee on 24, but she's on all these others.
She also plays a really good psychotic character in The Rookie as well.
Oh dear.
Wow.
I was glad to see that character, that Julia, was still at it. Like, she hadn't just changed her mind. Like, she was a lawyer. I don't want to be a lawyer. I want to be a cop. I want to be a detective. And maybe she still is working towards detective. But that I was glad to see that she was still in the police force there in season 7.
Same here.
And see, it's like, you could see that she's been working through some things. I mean, a lot of issues.
And then when we last saw her, she was getting pranked by the captain and his douchebag friend against the lieutenant. So, she gets the fishing rod.
Right.
So I was like, I'm wondering what's going to happen next. This is like, she's definitely done, I think, for a while doing favors for anyone. She helped out Harry. They found out about their friendship. She basically got demoted, and then, she helped out the lieutenant and she got bullied. So I think she's going to just be very antisocial from this point on. I probably would be too.
I definitely respect that she's still at it, and maybe this really is something that she loves,
Oh, totally.
You have to love it a lot after the fish in the locker, but.
Oh man, I feel like this is the kind of show that would have made the late great Sidney Lumet proud. He's like, someone got the Serpico formula down. Okay, so here's my fan theory.
Okay.
I get that it's by Netflix now. This Lincoln Lawyer show has been long development now, and David E. Kelly's worked on LA Law and Boston Legal's one of the showrunners. Do you think it's possible that Titus Weliver might show up there?
No, it's
and
not. They can't.
It'd be funny if they did. He showed up as the Bosch character, but they don't say it just so they don't get a copyright.
Oh, yeah. No, they can't do it legally.
I know people were commenting to Michael Connelly. It's like, just write a character named Barry Horsch or Barry Bosch, and have Titus Weliver play Barry Bosch, and we'll all know. But
Barry Bosch,
Barry Bosch, and then that way everybody
funny.
Or everybody that loves Harry Bosch will know. But
now that's going to get me to confuse him with the hitman Bill Hader plays on that HBO show. Jeez.
Oh.
Barry Bosch. Ha ha. Harry Barry.
That's funny.
Go for it. So where can we find you guys on the web?
Well,
Tracey and Barry.
Our podcast for all things Bosch and going on into the spinoff is on Twitter at Bosch Everybody. It's the Everybody Counts podcast. But it all rolls up under so many shows.com, that website. You can find all the different shows we cover there. And then we will be covering the Lincoln Lawyer. We've got a few things planned before the season, and that Twitter is at Lincoln Law Pod.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I'm excited.
So glad to have you on here.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome back anytime. If there's any other show that's like, we got to take this down, season by season.
Okay.
Mike,
I love every season. Yeah, I'm on Twitter, Bosch Trivia Guy, so it's at Bosch Trivia is the Twitter handle, and then I'm also on Bosch Pit quite frequently on Facebook fan group. So just search Bosch Pit, and
it's a great group.
I'm
Everybody
the creator.
counts.
I'm the creator of the group, and then the co-administrator, and I brought on some moderators to help out, especially before season 7.
Police the users.
Yeah. Well, it's the site.
Yeah.
Lock it down.
I would say the group has grown so much.
Not really
Mike.
lock
You
it
needed
down.
some
We're
help.
trying to avoid spoilers for a couple
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah, telling people to not spoil it is always a pain in any group I manage. I'm like, oh, sorry, I figured everyone already saw it. I'm like, why would you share a spoiler to begin with? Come on. Just
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, what a touchy subject. Yeah. Yeah.
This is like, if it's a big, would you reveal the ending of 7 to everybody? No.
Yeah, really. Well, it's like it goes back to last year when Titus Weliver was on an episode of The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I wake up that Friday morning, and I have a Facebook, like a message request or something like that on Facebook Messenger. So I bring it up, and it's like, well, this is the kind of group that you're going to run and have spoilers for The Mandalorian. I'm like, I don't run the Mandalorian fan group. I run
It's not a Mandalorian
the
group.
Bosch fan group, but apparently somebody was all uppity that Mandalorian, somebody spoiled that Titus Welliver's when the Mandalorian episode that morning or whatever. And I said, I just woken up. It's not like I can police the thing
And
24
people
hours
feel
a day.
like they got to share then and there, otherwise their life is over. It's like,
Pretty much.
or maybe, I got memes on my phone. I'm not going to share them every day, every hour.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll wait around. I don't want to spam the group, which is nonstop, and only 1 or 2 people is commenting. And every group, again, doesn't want to share the same kind of content and everything. So it's like, yeah, that meme's a little off color, shared in this group instead, or again, like you say, it gives something away, so maybe let's not put it there.
Really.
I always love the positivity on Bosch Pit. Many people comment on that. So kudos to Mike and the moderators for keeping it that way.
Oh, totally. I even invited a few guys who said Bosch was their favorite show. I'm like, oh, well, check this out. Here's where you're going to talk about it with other people.
Yeah. Love it.
Okay. So, again, thank you all so much. This was an absolute blast. And
also fun.
Keep binging some
I could
great
go on
entertainment.
for hours talking Bosch. So anytime you want,
Exactly.
if you want to do like a chapter 2 episode or part 2 episode.
Oh, no doubt. Trust me. Let's get 2 seasons into the next, follow up, and let's go to town on that. By all means, let's.
This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely, and you guys be safe out there.
All right, take care. Bye.
Absolutely, thank you all.
We'll return after these messages.
Hey, feeling down? Feeling low? Not enough podcasts about movies in your life? Why not try...
They must be destroyed on sight!
The new Podcast Cure-All, sure to get you right with the world and on a path to better living. We have exploitation, we have Italian horror, we have zombies, we have slashers, we have crime films, we have spaghetti westerns, we even have sci-fi and sex comedies. So take a dose of...
They must be destroyed on sight!
As needed, and let the hosts, Lee Russell, Daniel Harper, Paul Romali, and the odd guest host cure what ails you.
Warning, may cause atrophy, African consumption, black fever, bone shave, chin cough, colic, cramp colic, dropsy of the brain, elephantitis, grocer's itch, jaundice, mania, miasma, mortification, palsy, Pott's disease, rheumatism, scurvy, St. Anthony's fire, summer complaint, and worm fit in some people. Consult a physician before listening.
Did you ever see a film at such a young age it left you traumatized with cinematic wounds? Necrophilia. It's a dead issue, man. Don't push it. Cinema Psyops is a weekly podcast documenting an ongoing experiment on the mind of an unwilling test subject.
No one should have to watch this movie.
Oh, no one should have to watch this?
No one should have to watch this movie.
Surprisingly, it's not a topic that a lot of people really want to tackle.
I'm shocked, prudes.
I know, really.
Right?
It's the next sexual frontier that no one wants to explore.
I am, in the most sincerest of senses, disappointed in it.
It takes a powerful goddess like Connie, jam her arm down the monster's throat and kill it. Oh, I'm still tripping out over that. Even as a kid, I was like, I gotta find a girl like that. Every week, I get a new look of disappointment that I never thought I could get out of it.
Unimaginable. At 12 years old, you should not be watching this movie.
Obviously.
At 13, you should not be. 14, you shouldn't be. I'm not entirely sure even 17-year-olds should be watching this.
Just because you're offended by something doesn't mean that you have the right to demand that it doesn't exist. Watching this film again, I had all of this like little nerd glee with everything that kept
little
popping
history
up.
doll popping up
absolutely.
at you.
So I totally loved this film.
Hey, I know why you couldn't see that. It's because your brain's warped from watching this shit at 12 years old.
Yeah, this is a rough movie. I told you ahead of time when we were getting ready to do it that it was going to be a rough
How could you watch
one.
this shit at 12?
Because physical wounds heal, cinematic ones don't. Listen to Cinema Psyops.
Hey everybody, I'm Corey.
And I'm Zach, and we're the hosts of Podcasting After Dark, a cast dedicated to late-night horror and sci-fi of the 80s and 90s, often found on HBO and Cinemax.
You know, the movies your parents didn't want you watching as a kid. You can find us every other week on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and Stitcher.
This is what you want.
This is what you get.
It's time, let's check our queue, baby. Pair it with a couple brews, baby. We love good movies. We love the bad ones too. So we watch them all and pass their lessons on to you. Oh yeah. Everything I learned from movies helps to make life a little bit groovy. Whether one likes plot holes or gratuitous movies, it's time to get busy with your friend Steve and Izzy. At eilfm.podbean.com.
Welcome to Who Was She podcast. I am your host, Tara Jabari. After a decade working in documentaries, marketing, and all things digital media, I found that podcasting is a strong medium to share stories. After years of producing for others, I decided to start my own biographical podcast. Who Was She will focus on the life of a woman throughout Baha'i history. The first season is about Lydia Zemenov. Lydia's story explores the subjects of the power of language and faith. Her father invented the universal language Esperanto, and she came from a Jewish family and became a Baha'i. She grew up during World War I and was killed during World War II in a concentration camp, despite heroic efforts to save her life. How can one person's life intersect with so many others, connect across borders, and inspire a biography, which inspired this podcast? Over the next few weeks, I will share her story with you and the lives that were most affected by her and those who affected her life as well. They include her father, Ludwig Zemenov, her spiritual mother, American journalist Martha Root, and the Baha'i German soldier Fritz Mako, who worked for the resistance undercover while having to serve the Nazi Party. I want to thank the author Wendy Heller and George Ronald Publishing for their blessing to let me use Heller's biography, Lydia, The Life of Lydia Zemenov, Daughter of Esperanto, as a main and instrumental resource for this podcast. So please subscribe and learn about this amazing woman who traveled through 3 continents in an effort to bring unity through the power of language. You can also find more information on our Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest at Who Was She Podcast. Music was composed and performed by Sam Red. I am your host, Tara Jabari. Join us next time as we begin our journey about Lydia Zemenov.
Are you sick of the same old stale podcasts? Well, then join Vanessa and Darren as they dissect movies of all kinds. The 2 lifelong cinema lovers bring their favorites, curiosities, and first-time watches to the operating table and inject them with a healthy dose of snark. Then there's the waiting room, where they examine books and short stories. So just look for them on Apple Podcasts and where fine podcasts are available. They're part of the Legion Podcast Network. Follow them on Twitter at VD Clinic Pod. Join them on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/VD Clinic Pod, or email them at vdclinicpod@gmail.com. They're ready to cure what ails you. And still, they just might be a little contagious.
Hi there. It's Heather from the Watching Netflix Without You podcast. Did you know that there are over 1,200 Netflix original feature films and documentaries? And that number is only growing. So I've made it my mission to watch as many as I possibly can. Then, with a delightful guest or guests, disclaimer, more often than not my brother Ryan, we spend an episode rating, reviewing, and discussing a film at length. The first half of every episode is spoiler-free for those who haven't seen it yet, and in the second half, after a very clear spoiler warning, we dive into it. And that's really about it. You can listen to Watching Netflix Without You on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and more.
We now continue with our program.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up review show.